Today we are actually planning to speak about, what career options are there for people who have just completed their studies of, like year 12 or bachelor's. And today we wanted to also discuss more on the career options which are going to come up, or which are going to be more in demand after this COVID pandemic situation. How exactly the market needs are changing, how exactly the companies are looking forward for people, what type of skills they are going to be, sourcing out from the market, and how exactly the current children or students have to be equipped with those qualifications and knowledge in order to be ready for the coming requirement. So being a migration agent as well as a career planner, I've been trained as a career planner in Australia. uh, we are being trained on analyzing how exactly the market changes, and how exactly the market requirements are also coming to picture. We are also trained on to analyze the statistical analysis on where the market needs are moving forward. So these are the areas we will be primarily discussing on today. And we also have Govindji here, who is into careers, and he's into also HR for many years, placing top end people in big companies. I'll just pass it on to you, Govindji. Please go ahead.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Mr. Dilip. And I request those who are not asking a question to please mute yourself, or else I will just mute all of you so that you can just speak only when it is needed. If you want to ask a question, you can unmute yourself. Okay. My name is Govind Babu. I've been in the corporate world for about 20 years. I've lived in the United States, Singapore, and Dubai. I've worked for top companies, technology companies like Tech Mahindra, Birlasoft, and many other technology companies. I used to be the regional head for Aditya Birla Group's technology company called PSI Data Systems, which became Aditya Birla Minax in the United States. The last 8 years, I've been into executive recruiting and international recruitment. I've set up two companies, one in the United States under the brand name of GoWin Search, and one in Dubai under the name of EMP GoWin. Both are recruitment companies. We recruit a lot of sales professionals. We recruit tech professionals for companies in these countries. So my expertise is in looking at careers, specifically overseas careers, international careers. And I mentored, coached, and really worked with many professionals who wanted to shape their career or transition their career. So today I'm here to, talk about the areas which are related to career transition, what kind of opportunities and what kind of careers, or what's the difference between careers and jobs, and entrepreneurship mindsets and all that. So that is my area of expertise. Over to you, Mr. Dilip. If we can kick off the session. If Abhijit is here, he can, if he wants to say anything specifically. Otherwise, I will kick off the session by asking you a question.
Let's start our session. I think Abhijit is on, he's actually trying to get people in. People are calling him on, there's some technical issues on getting into this. So we'll start. Right. You can start working from your side. I can start from my side.
Yeah. Sure. So I want to kick off this session today by asking you a very interesting question that is going on in the minds of a lot of people, Mr. Dilip, is what are the skills that one needs to develop really to face what is coming after COVID situation? We're going through a lot of challenges. We're going through a lot of uncertainty. But once things settle down, what do you think are the kind of skills that will be in demand? What are the skills that will be really needed in the market or what kind of skills should one really acquire, and what kind of education would be ideal for students to really look at so that they get themselves prepared for the new norm, the near future?
Yeah. So Govindji, one need to now really understand that it is not that the level of the qualification is what they need to primarily focus on. People have to now primarily focus on what is the requirement of the market. Now, based on the new trends which are generating, people are looking into more health oriented, and companies are looking into more automation oriented, and they wanted to be more, less expensive on their product. And they are trying to, generate a situation where with lowest number of employees, they are able to run their show. That is the reason we are seeing every day in across the world, a lot of people are, having tough time on their jobs. The new automation things and the health in our scenarios, what we look into, we are seeing there's a lot of search coming up with many people looking into naturopathy, how dietitians, something related to, yoga. More on, people are now looking into those skills which are helping them to be more in health oriented. People are ready to spend huge money. Even the what you call rich people are now trying to hire personal dietitians, personal fitness professionals, uh, and so on. So this particular area is going to grow really big. All those, people who used to feel that cars and houses are going to be luxury, now the coming trend is that people will be looking into having personal dietitian, personal health professional, personal physical trainers, and all these things which help them into developing their immune system and their regular body things. So these are the new what you call areas of skills. There are many more in this particular area where people are looking for on the everyday Google search. And we also see a lot of people are now using a lot of equipments which are medical equipments, where they can regularly, monitor their health stuff. So, and these health equipments are really quite automated, and they need professionals to always monitor them. So people who are knowledgeable or trained on repairing, managing these, medical equipments are also going to be on some of the high demand skills. So it looks like, these skills are never been in a very high demand previously, but these are the skills which are going to come into high demand coming days. And if you see AI, and robotics is going to be the next generation. Most of the big companies which will be planning up to come down on their human numbers, and they wanted to make it more automated. So they need people to make their complete work automated. Of course they need people end of the day, but the different set of people is what they are trying to look for. So people now need to now understand that, it is not that you should go for a master's or you need to go for a PhD is what it is going to give them a solution for tomorrow. If you are looking into a good pay job or a good pay career, it is something like you need to basically understand what exactly the market is now really looking for. Now, as you see, suddenly there is a huge raise in the requirements of masks and, sanitizers every day, and everyone is jumping into that. But it's actually during this pandemic, this particular thing is going to be there. But on the long run, everyone is going to look into a consistent health thing, which they are being monitored, helped by a third party professionals, which are these are the things. So there are a lot of allied health degrees are going to come into a higher demand in the coming days.
Very good. Very interesting. Very interesting perspective. And rightly said, I think proactive healthcare, automation, again, fitness, personal fitness, these are areas which are seeing huge surge. And also pharmaceutical, maybe, the things around pharmaceutical and areas around augmented reality, virtual reality. I see a huge surge there because most of the people want to experience the reality through the virtual medium, video communication, and again, telecom infrastructure, which needs to be scaled up because of all this high bandwidth usage that is happening. I think this is where a lot of surge is happening.
I would also try to add up something. Recently there is a high, spike in recruiting digital marketing professionals. Almost 25% of spike is there in the market, and that's the reason a lot of people are now learning this digital marketing stuff, because most of the companies will have to only sell their products more on online than on the physical basis.
Absolutely, absolutely, very true.
So people need to really understand the need of the market and accordingly plan up their careers. So when people are coming out of year 12, that is the time it is very easy to plan up your profession. And there are many degrees which are there, which are only at the level of bachelor's or at the level of diploma, which are giving you a very good salaries in India as well as overseas. So primarily people, I would say, when people come out of their degrees, most of them, they do have their something in their heads that they have to do engineering or BCom or doctor, MBBS. And if in the health sector, most of them knows a few things like dental doctor or something like, dental physician and pharmacist. But there are so much of other areas like, research in pharmacy, research in what you call allied health services, which are actually what you call having more demand these days. And their searches, online searches are increasing.
Right.
People.
Right. Excellent. Okay. Good.
So Govindji, I wanted to ask you something like, how exactly one need to, plan up their future in terms of their, they should be looking for a job or for a career in the coming days?
That's a very good question, Mr. Dilip. There is a very clear distinction between job and a career, but many people find it very hazy. They kind of use these terms interchangeably because that distinction is not clear for them. So I'll take this time to really explain the difference. I think when we look at a job, we look at really short term. We look at something which can give us an opportunity immediately, something which can give us employment, something which can give us returns of money for the service that we are providing, for the work that we're doing, or for the skills that we're demonstrating, right? But that is a very short-term view. But that is like, being very opportunistic and saying that, okay, let me jump into a job that comes up. So in many times we've seen in overseas careers, though they say overseas careers, it's actually overseas jobs where people have just got into a job, whichever comes. They could have been an engineer or they could have been a commerce graduate, but they will get into a line which is completely different. They'll be in a totally different line. But that is because the overseas opportunity presented itself, and they wanted to take it up because it's a job, right? Because it's a job and it is giving them some income.
Yeah.
But then what they do in the process is they actually compromise on the long-term career opportunity, because career is something which is long-term. Career is something which you are expressing your unique skills and talents in that area where you're really good at, where you're really proficient in, and you want to really express that uniqueness and that talent and that skill in that area and really become a master at it. You really want to become good at it. That's what a career is all about. In a job, in a place where you treat it like a job, your heart is not there. You're really looking at, okay, I'm doing a 9 to 5 job and I'm getting paid for it. That's fine. But when you look at a career, you're really putting your heart and soul into it. You're really looking at it in a long term, right? And you're shaping yourself towards a career. So, the work that you do, Mr. Dilip, like in terms of, the work that you're doing with students, especially in helping them and grooming them at a very early age, like from their 12th standard, once they finish their school education, you're really grooming them so that you're ensuring that they get on to this career path. That's what you're doing. And
Right.
so career, so to really say career is something which you make a conscious decision based on your strengths and your uniqueness and your skills, and you say that, okay, this is my long term goal, this is the direction which I want to go. So there could be many people who can even transition their career. They can move from one career to another because they see that they are in a job and they are not happy with that job, or they're not, it's not that the job they're not happy, but actually they are not happy with themselves because they are not able to express themselves fully. They are not able to bring out their uniqueness and skills. And that is when career transition is important, where we can look at aligning their careers and transitioning their careers so that long term, it's not about just the money, but they also have a level of satisfaction, they have a level of fulfillment, and they have a sense of contribution, right? It's not about just getting paid. And that's a big difference between a job and a career, where you, in one thing, you're just doing it as a service in return for the money you're getting. But on the other side, you're developing as a professional. You're expressing your uniqueness. You're getting fulfilled. You're satisfied. That's the long term. So I think moving away from a job mindset to a career mindset is very, very important. And that's the work I do. I do career alignment with a lot of the professionals and internationally, because this is where many people get it wrong. Because the moment they say that international opportunity, they want to jump into it, they compromise on the long-term career, go for short-term job, and that is where things become messy. Because once they gain experience in the country, like for example, it's an international country like Australia, where they get a certain experience of, let's say, 1 or 2 years in a particular line, then they get branded in that way. People say that, okay, you've done this work, so this is your experience, we would be giving you more of this kind of work. And then it becomes very difficult for them to switch careers. That is why it's so important to align themselves.
You have rightly said, Govind. And I also like to add up on this, because very recently I have seen one of the client who came from Australia, who actually went to Australia to pursue his bachelor's in computer science. But he's very good in mathematics. And he started teaching children over there, and he started up a company over there, and he has now started recruiting almost 7 teachers teaching different people there. And he's more successful there as a teacher, teaching mathematics, and he was never happy with doing the computer science stuff. And he has ended up doing that only because somebody was saying that it's computer science is what going to give you food and nothing else. So basically, end of the day, if you are hanging on to your passion, your career, it will actually take you to, the tops, and the destiny will be very easy, comfortable, and bright.
Yeah, so well said. And one of the questions I had at this point in time, Mr. Dilip, is like, you spoke about the skills that may be in demand, but then what about the industries? What about the industries which are really opening up? I mean, some industries are getting affected. We know that some traditional industries are kind of almost coming down, and sales and revenue and all that. But there are some industries which are flourishing, which are opening up, especially when you're talking about, let's say, a country like Australia or other international regions. What kind of industries do you see as flourishing, as futuristic?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Govindji. Yes, we need to basically plan our careers based on our. Some of the major industries which I am seeing, which is flourishing in Australia and New Zealand, is the health industry and allied health industry, which I was talking about. And the other next is automation of mining. Previously, it was all human-based mining. Now, automated mining happening up very much there. And so technical people who are actually supporting this automated stuff in the mining area are paid huge. And also digital security, digital forensic is actually picking up heavily, because a lot of data online is getting into vulnerable hands. So they are hiring a lot of people on digital audits, digital forensic, and these areas. So these are some of the industries which are very much in demand in the coming days. There are many more, but as you said rightly, we need to basically plan up our future based on our interest, and plan your careers, not look for a job. It is basically look for a career, and many careers which has their some way the connection with these industries, which will bring up brighter chances. So like one of the person who is actually very good artist, who was doing masters in accountancy in Australia. He is a good artist, so suddenly there's a digital marketing company hired him to do online graphics for his company. So something else has actually given him what you call a job, which was always his passion about. So I would say more digitalization is happening, and that is the next future, and more automation is the next future. And the next thing is the health industry. Health industry is going to be having a real transformation. No more the old type of health professions will be having that great demand. There will be new professions in the health industries which is going to come into big demand.
Right. Very interesting. Very interesting that you say that. Yeah. Yeah.
So more and more people will be becoming entrepreneurs and self-employed than working for somebody, because they will be looking into pursuing their own careers. So I want you to also speak a little bit on how exactly this job and entrepreneurship, are two-way different, and how exactly people need to work towards that.
That's an interesting question. In fact, especially with the current times, with a lot of uncertainty, people losing jobs and out of jobs. In fact, this is a big question in many people's minds, saying that, hey, why don't we start on our own? Why don't we do our own business, become self-employed rather than going and working? Because we've been working in a job and now we have lost the job. So we don't know, maybe next time again we get a job, and then what happens if we again lose a job? So this is a question that is there in many people's minds. But I think what is important to understand is if that particular individual has that kind of they have it in their nature, like they have skills for that, they have competence to become an entrepreneur, right? So it's very important. Many people have these ambitions. They have a drive, they have ambition, they want to become entrepreneurs, they want to become successful people in their own, on their own, running their own business. But the question they don't ask really is, do they have the skills, competence, and mindset for entrepreneurship? Because entrepreneurship mindset and job mindset is very, very different. They are kind of diametrically opposite. To become a successful employee, you need to be highly skilled. You need to understand what your roles and responsibilities are and what your area of work is. That is the main focus as far as a job is concerned. But as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, the mindset is very different. You have to deal with a lot of uncertainty. You have to deal with cash flow. You have to deal with new product creation, servicing customers, handling operations, handling people recruitment. There are so many things. It's like 360 degrees. Whereas in a job, you're only concerned about your area of work. And as an entrepreneur, you have to look at all the areas that is related to the business, right? There are things like finance and taxation. There are so many other areas. So really one has to look at whether they have the mindset, whether they have those skills, the competence to become an entrepreneur and self-employed person. And that's the big question that many people don't ask. That, okay, I'm in a job because of this certain situations and circumstances. Now I can get into entrepreneurship. In fact, interestingly, Mr. Dilip, you know that in Australia, there are a lot of these courses on entrepreneurship. Now, many people can study on entrepreneurship. In fact, there are not many courses that that were available earlier, but today things have really opened up, where we can look at courses which help people develop the entrepreneur mindset and make the transition from a job employee mindset to a entrepreneur mindset. That's the beauty. So it's something which can be learned, which can be really worked on and acquired as a skill, but one has to move in that direction. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a very organic thing, right? It takes some time. It definitely takes some time, and it's very organic. And definitely if the person has a competence and skill, they can develop and become an entrepreneur. You see, most of the areas, the stress happens because a person has a certain behavioral trait, and that behavioral trait is becomes a roadblock for them when they get into the new career or new kind of entrepreneurship kind of a thing. Because a person may be having a behavior trait for not taking risks, for example. If that is their behavior trait and they get into a business which demands a lot of risk taking, that is where a lot of stress will come to them, simply because it is not in their behavioral trait. And that's where we do a lot of these self-assessment tests, psychometric assessment tests, where we look at the behavior trait and then tell the person, look, with your behavior trait of not willing to take risks, it is better not to get into entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship would need a behavior trait of risk taking, right? So
I have a small further question on this, Govindji. Like when you're talking about entrepreneurship, is it like people from which age groups should actually look forward for being an entrepreneur?
see, I would say, rather than looking at the age, we have to look at the specific experience they have. That is number one. And we have to also look at the behavior traits, behavior attributes, and their skills and competence. That is what is more important. Because if you look at, I was there in San Francisco, where I met a lot of young entrepreneurs. In fact, they were just in their early 20s, but they were all digital entrepreneurs. They have phenomenal products that they have built, and they've become mega successful as entrepreneurs, right? But they are not in the traditional sense like the typical entrepreneurs who have brick and mortar entrepreneurs who have worked and then who have built factories and this and that. They are not like that, but they are young entrepreneurs. So what that means to say is, age is not a restricting factor. Age is not a factor to become an entrepreneur. And Experience is definitely needed, but in that particular line, the new entrepreneurs who are coming up, they are so experienced in their area of, let's say, digital technologies. They don't need to have the other areas of experience, because as an entrepreneur, a person can always hire skills they want from the market. It's not necessarily that they have to have all the skills. They can hire the skills that are needed. So experience in terms of their areas of expertise, other areas they can always hire, and passion for their area. They have that passion, they have that drive, they have that energy for their area. They want to innovate, they want to create. That's what really is needed for an entrepreneur. Gone are the old days where we need to have huge financial backing for becoming an entrepreneur. Today, there are banks, there are financial institutions, there are investors who are willing to invest money and raise capital. If the idea is great, if the timing is right, if the leadership is perfect and they're compassionate about giving this as a service to a lot of people, people are willing to invest and back people up.
Rightly said. Rightly said. Yeah. That's a wonderful explanation from your end about entrepreneurship, Govindji. I think people have to now start thinking differently. Gone those days where, they are always, looking into desktop job or, doing any, a job which their previous generation has done. I think the discussion has, went really well. So let's open up for the questions from the people who are, attending this particular seminar. Would like to ask the people who are there, who are listening to the session, please come up with your questions. You can unmute yourself and you can ask.
Yeah, Dilip, can I ask?
Yes, please.
Yeah, see, Dilip, now you know that the scenario is not good, and my wife, she is working in the middle management position in HCL. So I keep hearing, from her friends that there could be a possibility that not now, probably after 6 months or 8 months, there could be possibilities of, job layoff. This is like the talks, that the friends, they discuss. What are the opportunities, for someone like, you take my wife's friends who have, about 8 to 10 years of experience. And there are some, they even have about 15 to 20 years of experience. Do you think it is a right suggestion to immigrate to Australia or New Zealand? Like, can they do that?
Definitely, yes. See, they have such a huge experience now. 6 to 10 years experience is a huge experience. And people like those is what Australia, Canada, and New Zealand is looking for, because most of the companies want any person to do multitasking over there, because the pay and the hourly salary is very high over there. So they wanted highly experienced professionals. So people like these, if they are migrating over there, they are going to have a real good opportunity to settle down. And the trend in Australia and New Zealand and these countries is, if they are hiring somebody, they are going to look into the longer perspective, not on a shorter perspective. So when they're hiring, if they have multitasking, what you call knowledge, definitely their opportunities are great. And if you see, these countries are very low populated. And that is the reason most of the skilled people are migrants in these countries. So, and I see that Chinese and Indians are the ones who are taking all the topmost, skill-based jobs in these all three countries. And
oh, thank you, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good input. So someone with good work experience will stand a much better chance.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
Any more questions?
Yeah, Kaushik here. If someone wants to start a business, what is the process?
If you want to start a business in countries like Australia or New Zealand, there is something called, a work visa, which is actually being provided to overseas people or overseas businesses to send somebody from those countries to understand, analyze the local businesses over there. And once you see that, or there is also a short-term business visa, which is available, which is given for 3 months, multiple entry, where you can go understand the local market, analyze, and then you can, once you are fine with it, you can get, convert, send somebody from your company to start working for you in selling your particular product there. So it's not going to be really very expensive on sending somebody to start your business over there.
But is there any cap on the minimum amount to be invested, or?
Okay, so you are not sending them on a full-time permanent residency basis. So you're sending them on to run a business there. So when you are starting there to run a business there, if you're having a very good turnover in India, that is enough. So they are only going to look into whether you have the capacity to pay him the salary while he is there in Australia to run your business. So
Okay.
there is no huge investments what they mandatorily required. It is basically they look into whether your company is active and having good active turnovers. It is only turnovers, end of the day, not the profits what they look into.
Okay.
So they also look into whether what is your product, how exactly you're positioned, how long you have been positioned in the market. That's it. And also they're also looking into what is the market research you've done for your particular product.
Okay.
Then they are ready to give you the long-term visa for 2 years to 4 years, where you can happily run your business over there.
Okay.
So I can quickly talk about Middle East, Dubai, for example, setting up business there and the norms there, if you're interested on that. So there is a concept of free zones. So if you're a foreigner and you have to identify the free zones which are the best for setting up the business, like depends on the activity. Like let's say you're in media business, there is a free zone. If you're in education business, there is a free zone. If you're in some other technology business, there's a free zone. So now these free zones are basically clusters where they have a group of companies. So you basically approach the free zone, set up the company there, and then you get a local residence visa and you can move there.
Okay.
Based on the free zones, they have certain investment plans, like 1 year, this is the fee, there is a license fee, then there is a office cost, and all those kind of things. So if that helps, yeah.
Okay.
Dilip, I have one more query.
Yes.
See, New Zealand, again, when we look at the New Zealand market, for jobs, is it the same, is it just like Australia, or do you feel that New Zealand is a much better place for, for specific segments?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, Vijay. Yeah, the segments in New Zealand are totally different from Australia. The industries are also totally different from Australia. But these days, what I'm seeing the trend in New Zealand is every small end company wanted to become cloud-based. So a lot of companies from US and Australia have started up their shops in New Zealand in providing cloud-based solutions to many of the companies in New Zealand. And that is one area where there are a lot of job opportunities coming up, and a lot of dairy industry is flourishing over there, and tourism industry is a hit at the moment, but it is always going to be going to come back, and New Zealand is primarily depending on the tourism industry. So technology professionals has a very good opportunity, but if they are focused on cloud based, they are paid really high and they have a long-term positioning over there. And people into construction industry is also having a very good scope, because a lot of construction activity is happening in New Zealand because there is a lot of migration coming up to New Zealand. And agriculture is always booming up there, and the dairy industry is also very good. So when you say, when it comes to agriculture, dairy industry, what will be the job opportunities coming up? See, there the agriculture industry is more mechanized, not like Indian way of agriculture. So there are a lot of mechanized products where they need technicians for those mechanized equipments to be handled and managed, and all of them mostly are managed by Asians. And
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good input.
yeah, and one more thing I would like to put up is, if you have an Australian permanent residency, straight away you can also work in New Zealand. So they do have that cross country arrangement.
So it is better that an individual applies for a PR in Australia rather than New Zealand. Is it?
Yeah, I would say New Australian PR is more stronger than New Zealand PR. But end of the day, both Australian citizenship and New Zealand citizenship is giving you 130 country visa free. The moment you are a citizen of this country, then you can straight away get into 130 countries without any visas.
And how long will the process takes if someone starts immigration process with you?
Yeah, normally these days, the immigration process is taking around 8 months to 1 year. And
So
it's
most
not
of
very
the,
expensive also.
yeah, I think then most of the IT companies, who are planning, for a change, I think this is the right time then.
Yes, and there are specific technology specific visas also, apart from the regular skilled visas. If somebody is specialized on any particular industry, there are special visas for Australia and New Zealand, which are faster way to reach. And I would also say one more thing, there are specifically special visas for Canada, where suppose you are an artist or you are a sports person, means even if you are a coach, you have a specific special purpose visa for as a skilled migration, which allows you to go to the Canada and settle down there.
Oh, so Dilip, you're also dealing with Canada immigration.
Yeah, we have started up with Australia, New Zealand, and Canada.
Canada, okay, fine, sure. Thanks, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Philip, one of the questions by a participant was posted on the group, but the chat has just disappeared now. So question is, can they pursue undergraduation in veterinary sciences in Australia, and what is the procedure?
Yes, that's a very good profession to be taken up in countries like Australia. And yes, you can definitely take, admission into veterinary sciences. But very few universities are only allowing international students to study under veterinary sciences. So you need to be really good in your English course, which you need to be mandatorily getting 7 in all bands in IELTS. And you need to have a minimum percentage of 65 to 70 percentage. Then you will be getting eligibility to get into veterinary sciences. And this is a particular area where you are going to really earn more than 100,000 per year after 2 years of experience into this particular profession.
Right. Thank
I
you.
hope I have answered all those information you needed for veterinary sciences. If you need more information, which part of Australia you should go to study, and what will be the budget requirement, we can as well, you can come back to me. I can give you specific answers to that. Yes, Gaurav, did I completely answered your question, or you have any more? Yeah, I think Govindji, we can wind off today, because our session has almost gone up till 1 hour. If you have anything to finally say, yes, please.
Yeah, I think I would like to thank everyone for joining today's webinar, and it was interesting to listen to Mr. Dilip and also look at the questions from participants and share my perspectives on job and career and entrepreneurship. Next week, we will continue our discussions. Of course, we'll have different topics, but related to overseas education and overseas careers. So thank you very much. And this recording will be available. So we will send it out as an email so it can be shared with everyone. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining.
Dilip, if you don't mind, can I ask a question?
Yes,
Yes,
who's that?
My name is Anirudh Dilip. Hello, Govind.
Hi.
So
Yes.
I am a non-IT guy. I have 5 years of experience in facility management and corporate real estate.
Okay.
So basically, I'm looking forward to pursue my education in UK. So there is a body that accredits you. That's RICS, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. So I'm basically a hotel management graduate who got into facilities right after my graduation. So what would be the aspects in countries like Australia or New Zealand or Canada
Okay. So when you're
in
talking
in,
about
in
survey,
prospect to the education as well as making a career in facilities altogether?
see, Anirudh, facility management is actually well taken up by the local people over there.
Okay.
So when migrants wants to enter into something like a management area, it is little really tough to get a job. But when
Okay.
you are getting into a survey area, surveyor audit area, that is a very good area to look into because that's a little more technical based.
Okay. So Dilip, are there any institute that accredits you, just like how UK or in India we follow RICS, MRICS and all. So is there any accreditation in Australia or New Zealand or any other part where it would be valued?
Absolutely, there are agencies. The Australian Surveyors Institute is there, which actually licenses you to give your services in Australia, which is also valid in New Zealand. So you need to basically take up courses which are accredited by these organizations, which will help you out to get yourself licensed.
Okay, Dilip, that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anirudh.
Thank you all for joining and look forward to continuing our discussion in the coming weeks. Thank you, Mr. Dilip. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Govind.
you.